Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss Nebraska, starring Bruce Dern, Will Forte, June Squibb, and Bob Odenkirk, directed by Alexander Payne. Now, I remember seeing this in theaters and really having a good time with it, but is it as good as I remember? Let's get into it. In Billings, Montana, we open with Woody Grant, played by Bruce Dern, who has Alzheimer's, is walking to Lincoln, Nebraska, as a cop stops him in the middle of the highway as they call his son David, played by Will Forte, to pick up his father as he says he's going to Lincoln, Nebraska to get his $1 million, while David believes it's a scam. As he takes him home to his stubborn wife Kate, played by June Squibb, as she comes off rather harsh to him, and the performances are great. Despite I don't like Kate because she talks about putting her in a nursing home, as I'm thinking to Woody, just divorce her ass, because she comes off mean to him all the goddamn time. As David gets another call while at work and sees Kate along with his brother Ross, played by Bob Odenkirk, and he comes off like an asshole too, his father. Well, he's an anchor, and I like Bob Odenkirk as I reviewed him in quite a few movies, and I'll be reviewing him again in my future when that Nobody when that sequel comes out. Yes, there's another movie coming out later this summer that I'm gonna have to catch up on, as he's another character who comes off rather stubborn like Kate does. David gets a visit from his ex-girlfriend named Noelle, while his mother calls him saying she can't take it anymore, as Woody wants to go to Lincoln, Nebraska, and David picks him up and takes Woody to London. Lincoln, excuse me, not London. What the hell am I talking about? And Kate believes David has lost his fucking mind, like her father has, as David wants to show Woody how much of a scam this is, as she wants to pick she wants backup from Ross, and they stop at a gas station where David almost loses Woody and finds him in the bar and sees his father is becoming an alcoholic like he did all those years ago. And they continue until David wants to go to Mount Rushmore, and they do, and Woody believes it looks incomplete, and they stop at a motel for the night, and Woody comes back and falls down while it wakes David up, and David takes him to the hospital to get stitched up. And that scared the shit out of me. And the cinematography is great, as this whole movie is shot in black and white. And how often do movies get filmed like that anymore? I could think of one other movie, and that's The Artist, that was filmed black and white through the entire time. And there's other movies out there that could sometimes go back and forth between that and color. And the score was very good as well. Woody loses his fake teeth, and Woody says they're on the train tracks, and they can't get to Lincoln, Nebraska because of his condition, as Kate calls Aunt Martha and Uncle Ray in Hawthorne, and Woody refuses to go to Hawthorne, but David takes him there anyways to visit Aunt Martha and Uncle Ray, as well as their sons Bart and Cole, as they don't act like they give a shit at all, as they're the kind of people who like to go too fast, too furious, like 100 miles per hour, an example, as they're watching the TV as something comedic is playing on it, as they make fun of David's driving, and the dialogue is very well written, but not from these dumbasses. Woody and David go to the auto shop Woody used to own with Ed Pegram, and asks a couple of the workers if they know Ed, and move on to a couple of bars. As one of the bars, Woody has a beer with David, while David has a Mountain Dew at first and eventually gets a beer with his old man, as Woody and David talk about why he married Kate and had kids because they like to fuck each other. And David brings up why he doesn't get a divorce and how much of an alcoholic Woody is, as he was sick of it until David was sick of it until they walk to another bar. And this is when the second bar comes in, and Woody and David bumps into Ed as he recognizes him at the bar, and David tells Woody to not say anything about the $1 million he believes he won, while David uses the restroom, and Woody ends up bringing it up as he becomes a celebrity in town. And I like the story as it's powerfully told about a man who has Alzheimer's, who is led to believe he won $1 million and falls for a scam. And that's a life lesson learned, folks, as we won't learn that until the very end of the movie, I'll say. Next day comes, and everybody in town learns Woody is a millionaire, while Bart and Cole can drive to Lincoln, as they still make fun of David's driving, and wait at the bus stop for Kate, and bump into an old friend of Woody's until the bus comes, and then acts all hysterical to Woody and David, as David wants Woody to live in a fantasy land, and they go to the cemetery so Kate can show her respects to the people they were friends with and relatives and Woody's. And at one point, she bumps into a dead friend who always hit on her, and shows her privates the to the grave while explaining that Woody's sister was a slut. I swear to God, that's what she's saying. That's not my words. And acts like a village bitch to Woody's friends and family by putting the poor guy down, while June Squibb does a good job with the role while coming off like a bitch and saying inappropriate things at the cemetery. Woody gets his picture taken by a boy who works for the newspaper of Hawthorne, and David goes to the place of the newspaper and saying to an old friend of Woody's that he didn't win the lottery nor sweepstakes, and have a brief chat about how his father, and he looks around the place and sees an old newspaper about Woody and his brothers as young military men, and they look like kids. And we move on to Woody, David, and Kate at a restaurant where there's karaoke at, and she orders for him, and they see Ed doing some karaoke while Kate brings up Ed wanting her back on the day. And Ed announces Woody as a millionaire, and Kate comes off denial while in the restroom. Ed comes in and threatens David to sue Woody for what he did back in the day. And this movie is well shot, well acted, and well made. Woody wakes up David, and he wants to go to Lincoln so badly while his family members are coming by, and Aunt Martha and Uncle Ray's house, that very day, as all the women are in the kitchen while the men watch a football game in the living room, until Ross comes in and they have a family lunch together, and they toast to Woody and his $1 million, while Ross is the spoil sport by saying he didn't win $1 million, while Kate believes she's the only sane one in the family, as David and Ross want to see where their father grew up in, and they do get another story about Woody has been having money problems over the years and want to have some of his $1 million as well, as Ross and Bart fight each other until Kate says there's no $1 million, and she says to go fuck themselves. And finally some sense came out of her, as she was annoying the shit out of me for the first half of the movie. David and Ross and takes Woody and Kate to Woody's old house where he grew up in, and looks around the place. They drive to Ed's house to see if they have a thing that he stole from Woody all those years ago, as was brought up in the beginning of the movie, and try to get it back, as they steal it back for Woody, which made me laugh, as that was hysterical in a dark comedy way, until they return it when they realized it was in Ed's house, and his thing as that was hysterical. The owners of the house come back home and see Woody and Kate in the back seat, and Kate moved up to the front seat and almost loses David and Ross, until they make a run for it and get in the car with Kate driving the rest of the way, while David and Woody have a drink until Ed comes in to get his money back, and torments Woody and wanting a divorce, as David tells Ed to get the hell away from them, until a couple of robbers steal Woody's wallet, and David is led to believe it was Bart and Cole, and goes to their house and say they don't have it, when, yeah, bullshit. As David tries to tell Woody maybe they dropped it and they go look for it, and that was a sad scene because I related with Woody and David. But something happens in the next segment. I'll talk about it then. We learn Ed has the letter Woody had for this entire movie, and they figure out he was bullshitting around, as Woody takes it back, and David walks up to Ed and punches the motherfucker in the face, and walks out and sees Woody as dizzy and wants to go to Lincoln, as he's very sad about it, while David tells him to stop fantasizing about the $1 million, as Woody confesses he wants the truck to give to either David or Ross when he passes away, so he can give them something, as we know he has some money problems. And suddenly he faints, and David drives Woody to the hospital, and Kate and Ross visit and have to leave the next day, as she's afraid of him, saying he's lost the fortune. No thanks to her. As they leave, and the next scene, David wakes up and sees Woody left the hospital and tries to walk to Lincoln, and David picks him up and takes him there. And when they get there, they go straight to the sweepstakes office, And the shots are great for this movie, as director Alexander Payne knows about how to shoot a movie for damn sure. They go inside as they get the disappointing news about how he didn't win unless his money matters. And the office asks if he wants a free gift of a hat or a seat cushion. And Woody decides to keep the hat that says prize winner. And they go back home all disappointed, and David wants to make a couple of stops, like getting a new truck, for example, as David puts on the title of the truck and gets a new thing that Ed stole all those years ago, as well as make Woody drive his own truck. As Woody tells David to get down as he passes by Ed and a couple of others, and Woody says his goodbye to Hawthorne for maybe the rest of his life. They stop to let David drive home for the rest of the way. And I like that David would do anything for his father, whether it's disappointing or not. And the climax was very well put together. And this is another score for director Alexander Payne. And how much of a score was it for him after this Sideways and the Holdovers, which I reviewed last year? Let's get to the rating, shall we? I'll give this movie a 8.5 out of 10. The performances are very good in this movie, as I like the characters of Woody and David, but Kate and Ross come off like douchebags to them, and this movie is well shot, well acted, well made, and the cinematography is very good, as this whole movie is in black and white. And how do we get movies that are shot throughout black and white anymore? As I was happy with it. The dialogue is great to listen to, and the score is well done. And at first, Kate got on my nerves until she said to some family members to go fuck themselves. And that's when I like her for the rest of the movie. And I like the story as it's about an old man with Alzheimer's believing he won $1 million. Well, it was a scam, and it was a well told. And I laughed at the scene when they stole something back from Ed to give it back to Woody, as that was funny in a dark comedy right away until they return it. That was hysterical. Director Alexander Payne scores big time, as this one is one of his very good movies, like The Holdovers, which I reviewed last year, and Sideways, which is something I have yet to get to review, as this is one of his best works, and one of them. Not completely, but anyways. And this is a solid recommendation for this movie, and there were times it was sad, but I actually enjoyed myself viewing this movie as I was in theaters, as it works for a father-son story. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me for this review. And until then, no, I didn't win $1 million, so forget it.